This is Faisal Khan for Light Sat in association with Shamrock Boxing, and this is episode 4 of Boxing Talk with Shane Mosley Junior, the Sugar Man Shane Mosley Junior. Good evening, Shane. How you doing?
How you doing, fellas?
Very well, thank you. And of course, joined by my main man as always, Mohsin Gulsher, aka Ron. Ron, what's going on?
All good, all good.
Good to have you boys on here as
Show
always.
the road.
Let's get cracking. Before we obviously get started, for all the viewers out there, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're following us on all the social media platforms. And yeah, episode 4 today, we're going to ask the question to the Sugar Man Shane Mosley Jr. What are his best 5 rounds of boxing ever? I mean, boxing is a sport that you could talk about all day long. I just saw Shane raise his eyebrows there in the corner, so it's going to be a bit of a tricky one. But before we get Shane's best 5 rounds of all time in boxing, me and Ron are going to start. So we're going to work our way down from 5 to 1. And like I said, boxing, it's a sport that you could talk about all day long. There's so much you can cover in boxing, but I'm really excited to be doing this topic today. So we'll start with 5 to 1. Ron, hit me with number 5.
Number 5, I've got a true battle of 2 hardened Mexicans going at war with each other. That's Marco Antonio Barrera and Erik Morales. They did share the ring on 3 occasions. But it was the first fight, the 5th round. I mean, look, before I even start talking about the fight, it's the lead up to the fight. You know, the hatred they had for each other. It was pride of Mexico. You know, that was it. That was what they were fighting for. You know, they wanted to be number 1. Insults were thrown at each other before the fight. One calling the other one gay. The other one said, "You look like an Indian." And there was that infamous kind of punch-up as well, Shane, you might remember. And it was promoted by Don King as well. So, you know, a fight that's got that going into it. It's going to be fireworks. And that 5th round, it was back and forth, a flurry of punches. You know, one moment, at one point, it was Barrera, you know, who was looking on the back foot, you know, you think he's going to get taken out, but then the tables get turned all of a sudden in that last minute of that round. Just the energy. Have you ever watched that fight, Shane?
I mean, it's been a minute since I watched it, so I can't really recall it, but I've seen the fight before.
I think these Mexicans, they seem to have, I don't know what it is. Shane, I just wanted to ask you, have you ever trained with Mexicans in Mexico or anything like that? Because
not in Mexico, but I've trained with Mexicans in California. I mean, it's very close, and there's a lot of Mexican fighters that come to California to train and things like that. So
Great fight.
We got a lot of that.
100% great fight. All 3 fights were good. 2 Mexicans just. I mean, every time you watch the Morales fight, it was. I mean, I remember Morales Pacquiao 1. I was watching that the other night, and I've got to say, Morales, the guy was in some wars. But that's what we've got at number 5. At number 4, I picked Wilder versus Fury 1, round 12. Now, the reason why, the magnitude of the fight, that was the biggest heavyweight fight, I believe, since Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis. You had 2 of the best heavyweights in the world in their prime fighting each other. It was a fight we thought we would not see for a very long time, because I believe Tyson Fury was just still in the early stages of his comeback in boxing. Round 12, I mean, I don't think I've ever had more fingers in my mouth at one stage in my life than during round 12, because I'm a big Tyson Fury fan. He dominated the fight throughout. Obviously, he was knocked out in round 1, but we all remember what happened in round 12. That, you know, right hand, left hand, any other fight, you're thinking, that's it, game over, lights out.
Yeah,
Fury,
for sure.
And Fury got back up, and he almost ended up knocking Wilder out in that round. Great round, thrilling heavyweight fight. Of course, a controversial decision in the end, but a fantastic fight, a phenomenal fight. And, we got to relive it again in their second fight. But for me, I've got that at number 4. Ron, break it down for me for number 3.
I've got it as Castillo versus
Corrales.
your name is that has got to be up there for me. I know I mentioned it last time when we were chatting. I think it was purely down to the grit and determination, because if that fight was happening in the UK, because you got to remember he was dropped twice, and on both occasions he spat out his gum shield as well, and he was docked a point for that. And I was watching the count, and he got up at 9 or almost at 9 or 9.5. If that happened in the UK, because obviously we have a standing 8 count. In America, I think it's different there, and he barely made it up, and the gum shield was out. That bought him a few seconds. Then obviously he went into his corner. His coach, Joe Glusson, put his mouthpiece in and says those infamous words. You got to show me something. This is it. And all of a sudden, then he produces that flurry of punches, and Castillo's kind of, and a referee calls it off. Oh God, what a movie moment that is.
Right.
At number 2,
absolutely.
Sorry, Shane, what was you going to say about Corrales?
No, I just said it was an incredible comeback. I mean, nobody expected that to happen, so it was incredible.
At number what we on? We're on number 2 now, so that was number 3. Hagler versus Hearns 1. I like to call Hagler versus Hearns round 1 a schoolyard fight. At the end of school, you get 2 guys that have told the whole school that there's going to be a fight at the end of school, in a park or in an alleyway, wherever. That for me was not a boxing match in round 1. That was 2 boxers that beat the living daylights out of each other in round 1.
Yeah. I mean, the lead up, the build up to that fight was fantastic. It was called The War. It was promoted as The War, and 2 contrasting styles as well. Hagler was a brawler, out and out brawler. I remember watching that round. Hagler showed his intentions from the first, when that bell rang. He was that right swing, and he missed turns, and I was thinking, okay. This is when I watched this the first time, and I was told by a friend of mine that he means business here. And, it was brutal. The punches that they laid on each other. Hearns, was trying to do his, fight to his strengths, using his boxing, IQ, and kind of bouncing off the back foot and kind of keeping him at a distance, But her, obviously Hagler wanted to get on the inside and, kind of tear him up. And I think Richard Steele, I think he was the referee at the time. He was trying to break it up a little bit. That was kind of frustrating for Hagler. It was back to forth. I mean, the hooks that he, kind of gave to Hearns, and Hearns, gave as good as he got. And I believe at the end of the first round, Hearns had broken his hand. And Manuel Stewart, who was his coach at the time, he said he'd broken his hand, and he asked Manuel Stewart not to tell anyone about this. And secondly, he looked at his legs and he knew they were gone. So, credit to him. He went in back for the second round, and the third round we knew what happened there. I mean, Shane, I'm sure you've seen that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, incredible 3 rounds, man. I feel like it's almost like superhuman rounds. Like people don't fight like that. I mean, you don't fight like that if you're thinking about going, many rounds. I mean, if you're trying to get a guy out of there, that's how you fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, the fight ended soon, so we knew what the outcome was going to be even from the beginning. Like, there's no way that these guys can take that amount of punishment for 15 rounds that they were going to go, or they were supposed to go. So, but hats off to them, because it was an incredible fight.
At number 1, my favorite, Award versus Gatti 1, round 9. And I strictly remember Jim Lampley saying, just imagine if you brought a ticket. That fight, them 3 fights, forget one of them, all 3 of them, but round 9 of Ward Gatti 1 was special. I mean, it started off with Irish Mickey Ward putting Gatti down, and then Gatti out of nowhere proved why he was a well-known warrior in boxing. Got up, took the rest of the round to Irish Mickey Ward. It was a phenomenal fight. It was a phenomenal round. I mean, them two literally beat the living shit out of each other. And for me, I
Yes,
mean, not only is Ward Gatti 1 round 9 my favorite round of all time, it's actually my favorite fight of all time. And I think sometimes in boxing, two fighters bring the best out of each other. And I always believe that Ward Gatti on 3 occasions brought the best out of each other. Shane, your thoughts on Ward versus Gatti 1, round 9?
Oh man, that's another fight that's like you look at that fight and like fighters like I mean like me, like I look at that fight and I go, man, these guys are insane. Like what are they doing? Like that's not supposed to happen. Like you're supposed to hit and not get hit. These guys are just hitting. Like there was no defense, just all offense. Like just like gunning for each other. So it was an incredible fight, to be honest. And but I wouldn't recommend anybody fight like that though.
I think you have to put it into context that one guy was an Irish, the other guy was a Canadian Italian. It was always going to be an all-out brawl. But there's a reason why this show is called Boxing Talk with the Sugarman Shane Mosley Jr. We've given our best 5 rounds of all time. Now, Shane, it's time for you to break it down from us. From 5 to 1, your best 5 rounds of boxing ever, and why have you selected these fights?
Oh man, you guys have put me on the spot. Let's see. So one of the first ones that I thought about when you guys like first told me about it, I was thinking of Manny Pacquiao, Marquez 4. The final round when Manny Pacquiao gets knocked out. The reason why is because like Manny was doing damage that whole round. Like I think he even like broke his nose. Like he broke Marquez's nose in that round. And just like with 1 second to go left in the round, bang, he goes out. You know what I mean? Like it's like I was there that night. So like it was the most incredible thing. Like I think the world stopped for a second. Like it was just like, what the fuck just happened? Like what just happened right now? You know what I mean? So for me, that was like an incredible moment because I was there and witnessed like this crazy moment, So that's probably number 5 for me. Let me think back to all the fights that you guys really put me on the spot. I gotta like think back. Rounds that really
not a bad one to start off with though. Pac-Man.
I mean, it's
that was a shock to the
one.
system. Nobody expected. I mean, Pacquiao has never. I mean, he's lost fights, but he's never been knocked out.
Right.
Cold.
Right. And like that, like nobody expected. Like especially when you're beating somebody, like he was beating his butt. Like you know what I mean? Like he was like doing damage to Marquez, and bang, that the one punch could change everything.
Well, one man Marquez, 56 of his wins, he won 40 of his 56 wins come by knockout. So he did have a good ratio of knockouts. So listen, I mean, at the end of the day, but to do that to a fighter like Manny Pacquiao says it all. But anyway, Shane, number 4, which fight and which round?
Okay. I'm trying to go back in the vault, man.
Take your time.
Oh man. To be honest, maybe I can just think back on rounds that I think are, and then I can maybe order them later. Mm-hmm. But of course, I got to put Castillo and Corrales. That's most definitely one of the rounds that around 9. What was it? 10. Round 10. Yeah, round 10. That's up there for me. I knew Diego Corrales. He was a friend of my dad's and a friend of mine. And so like that was an incredible win for me. I always like loved that fight because just like the resilience that he had. So that was a fight that I loved. Another one, probably that would be 3rd for me. 4th will be Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua. The round at
round 3.
Ruiz. Yes, the round 3. That would probably that would be number 4 for me. Round number 3 will be Castillo, Corrales. And then
Shane,
number 2.
Before you move on, I want to ask you something because we were very close to putting Joshua Ruiz round 3 in. Did you believe when Joshua put him down at the beginning of the round, that was it, the fight was over, especially with AJ's knockout ratio in that fight?
Yes. As an outsider looking in, I thought that, and because I've seen Anthony Joshua put people out after he puts them down, like it's like he's very, very good. He's very poised at finishing. He knows how to finish a guy, and he showed that. I mean, every other fight other than that, you know what I mean? He knows how to put guys out, especially when he puts them down. So I felt like it was going to be close to the end, and to see Andy Ruiz come back and, do what he did to him was incredible.
I think, that adds to the drama because, Ruiz clearly didn't read the same script, as the rest of us. I mean, the way he ended up that round, it was even, Joshua could have been finished by the end of that round. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's a shame that we didn't put that in our list, Faisal, but...
It is a shame, but if you ask Manny Robles, which I did last night, the interview with Manny Robles that we put up a little while ago, I asked him, what was your initial feeling when your man Andy went down in that 3rd round? He goes, brother, this game shows why it ain't over till it's over. And to come back the way he did and put Joshua down twice. But again, listen, one of the biggest upsets in boxing, but again, another great round. I've watched that round over and over again. I'm still in shock when I watch it till today because I can't believe how the tables just turned all of a sudden. Joshua had Ruiz down. Then after that, he was down twice and he was never the same again, never recovered. And Ruiz went on to become the first ever Mexican heavyweight champion of the world. So just to state right now, Shane's put Pacquiao Marquez 4, round 6 at number 5. He's put Joshua Ruiz round 3 at number 4. Castillo Corrales round 10 at number 3. So he's got 2 more rounds of any fight to pick, which he'd have as the best 5 rounds of all time.
So number 2 will definitely have to be Ward, Gotti Ward, round 9. That's when you guys said, I'm like, yeah, that definitely is in there. You know what I mean? Like that for me is in there for sure. So it's everything you want in a fight. You know what I mean? Like 2 guys just going at it. They show superhuman ability, skill, and will to win. So I thought it was a great fight, and it definitely deserves number 2. And then number 1 for me, of course, is we talked about it, Hearns and Hagler.
Yeah.
I mean, that for me is number 1. I mean, there's no like the 3rd round, like obviously the whole fight. I mean, but the 3rd round I think was just incredible.
Shane, what does it take to trigger 2 fighters to get them to fight like that, especially the rounds that you've just mentioned? Because you got to look at some of the rounds we've just mentioned, they were all out brawls, and you don't really see that every time in boxing. But sometimes you get that one special round. I mean, another round we didn't mention was Holyfield versus Bode, number 1, round 10. I mean, just again, 2 fighters that just tearing lumps at each other. Now, you obviously said it's not ideal to fight like that, but sometimes you get fighters that take it to that whole level. What do you think it triggers? What do you think it takes to trigger fighters to get to that sort of stage, especially in a high-profile boxing match?
I think it's just that it's a high. There's a high risk, high reward. You know what I mean? So you go in there, you fight a guy that is just as skilled, just as talented, just as everything as you, and you have to show that you're better. So when you both are doing that, when you both are showing that I'm trying to be better than you, you're gonna bring the greatest out of somebody. And it may come down to, he may be, stronger than me, but I'm smarter than him, or he's smarter than me, I'm stronger than him, or I can outwork him, or I can do these things. And it just really did, it really just depends on the fighter and things like that. But like Brother Nazem always says, in a boxing match, a fight breaks out. It happens,
I mean, my question is, what happens when you've thrown the kitchen sink, you've gone all in, but you haven't put that guy away? I mean, it must be really disheartening when you go back into a corner and thinking, shit, I'm going to have to, I haven't got it, where do you find that to, do it all over again? Or, what happens? I mean, I'm sure you've had sparring sessions and fights like that yourself where you're thinking, damn, what the fuck have I got to do to get this guy out of here?
I don't particularly think you're looking for a particular result, right? I think when you look at it like, I'm going to be at my best and I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that, it's not about I've hit him with everything, he should be falling. It's like, I'm going to hit him with everything I have until either I can't punch anymore, this fighter is over, or he drops. You know what I mean? And that's just like a mentality that you have to have. It's not like, I'm hitting him so hard, he should be falling by now. You know what I mean? Why hasn't he fallen? That's the wrong mindset to have. It's just like, look, man, I don't give a fuck if I hit you 100,000 times and you don't fall. Like, I'm going to win, like this fight is going to just go the distance and I'm going to win and look impressive, or you just give up. Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran. You know what I mean? I'm just going to keep on hitting you and moving and hitting you and moving and hitting you. Roberto Duran didn't quit. He just didn't want to do it no more. And I mean, sometimes you just got to have that. You know what I mean? Like, look, he won't fall. He won't, quit particularly. He just don't want to do this no more. And sometimes that's what it takes. But,
I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, it's about breaking your opponent down psychologically if you can't break him down physically.
Right.
Like, I mean, when you say that, I think a boxer that comes to my mind is Floyd Mayweather.
I agree with that, but I was thinking a different one. I was thinking Lomachenko. I was thinking Lomachenko.
I mean, both just equally as talented as each other. Both those two.
Yeah.
I think when you get like rounds, or fights, the ones that we've just put in our list, I think that you need two fighters that are on the same wavelength to get rounds like that. Two fighters that are going to be in there to like lay it all out on the line. And I think when you look at fighters such as Hagler Hearns, Ward Gatti, I think they were tailor-made for each other. I think you look at them in a build-up to a fight and you could think this is going to be something special. And I think the build-up plays a massive part in it. Another example, the Dillian White, Derek Chisora 2 fights, the build-up to that was just pure hatred. And you had two classic fights. And I think sometimes you need two fighters that bring the best out of each other. I mean, there's been certain fights that we've seen in boxing that have not lived up to its expectation, i.e. Mayweather Pacquiao never lived up to its expectation, whether that was because they were both at a certain point in their career or not. I just think that sometimes in boxing, you need two fighters that are going to bring the best out of each other. And I certainly believe that the rounds that we've just mentioned, these fighters brought the best out of each other. It takes two to put on a really good show. It takes two to tango.
Absolutely.
Shane, I've got to ask you something. What would it take to get you in a round like one of these that we've just mentioned?
I think the right opponent, to be honest, it's the right opponent, the right situation, and obviously, the reward has to be there. Unifying championships, status, money, obviously, things like that. I mean, of course, guys do it for a lot less, but I mean, I'm always gonna give my best, but to think like it will be easier to go to that place when you have a view of that. You know what I mean? When you have a view of now, for a different situation, I feel like you outbox somebody. You know what I mean? Like why, like especially because I understand that I have skills and things like that to beat a guy. I wouldn't take a risk like that if I know I can box somebody. But if I know that I've given everything that I have and I still can't, beat somebody, then it's like, okay, I know that I can outwork him. I know that I can, I'm going to do whatever it takes. So at a lower level, I don't feel like somebody will bring that out. But at a higher level, I feel like somebody will bring out that desire. Like I have to go do something to change the dynamic. You know what I mean? To go for it.
See, it's because I remember Ron just mentioned about psychologically. I remember obviously rewinding back to your days in the Contender when Devon Lee was saying, "I want your name on my record. I want the name Mosley on my record," and you constantly kept on saying in the kitchen in that scene, "I'm here. I'm ready to go." And a lot of people thought that would break you, but it didn't. And then in the first round of your fight against Devon Lee, you knocked him out. And, again, so psychologically, it does play a massive part. But I've always believed that, two fighters, they've got to be tailor-made for each other just to get the best out of each other, to lay it out all on the line. But Shane, do you not also think that there's fighters out there that don't want to engage in fights like that and want to fight smarter and better and use the advantages to their best skills possible? Fighters such as Floyd Mayweather, do you think that's why he was so successful, because he didn't engage in wars in his fights and he boxing 101 first before boxing in wars?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the name of the game. Hit and not get hit, and be as tactical, as efficient as possible, right? Like you don't want to be overdoing things to make the fans happy, because at the end of the day, the fans will forget about you as soon as you lose, or as soon as you are not boxing no more. They'll forget about you. But I do feel like for a certain time, for a certain status, things like that, sometimes the juice is worth the squeeze. Sometimes you need it for yourself. You need to show, like, look, I went out there and I did it, and I did what I had to do. I beat that guy up, whatever the case is. I took some punches, but I did what I had to do to get this win. So, and you need that as a fighter. Then you need the right person to bring that out of you. But is it the smartest thing? No. And can you have a career of that? Probably not. If you want to be able to talk and function as a human being afterwards, you can't have too many fights like that. You know what I mean? A guy only has a certain amount of fights like that in a career to be, if he wants to be sane and have all his marbles. But if you really don't care about that, then obviously go. There's guys that fight like that all the time. There's a lot of journeymen out there that have all kind of wars and stuff like that, and have exciting fights and things like that, but don't have successful careers. So you have to know when to pick your battles, as they say, which is quite fitting.
To put it better myself, but obviously those are the best 5 rounds of boxing Shane has ever seen. What do you guys think of Shane's rounds? Let us know in the comment section before we bring episode 4 to an end. Ron, is there anything?
Real quick.
Go for it.
Real quick. I want to throw a bonus round in. A round that I love. It's probably not like on most people's favorite rounds, but one of my favorite rounds is Sugar Shane Mosley and Ricardo Mayorga. Won last round.
Bit of sweet symphony, yeah?
Yeah, last round. That was an incredible, because not only was it an incredible knockout, it was 1 second left to go, but that is what set up the Floyd. That's what set up the Antonio
Redemption.
Margarito fight, which set up the Floyd Mayweather fight. So I feel like it was like that, those building blocks, but that round, made it like incredible. So I thought it was dope.
Shane, obviously, I'm gonna have to ask you this question, seeing as we've got you here. What was it like watching your father? Growing up. I mean, like nerves. I mean, was you like, what was that? Good, hit left and right. What was you like? I mean, like, was you calm watching him, or was you always nervous on the edge of your seat watching?
I was nervous. I think I was more nervous watching my father's fights than I get that I'm nervous for my own fights. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm more nervous to watch him fight than than my own fights. So. And it's quite funny because I've seen him fight so many times, like live. I've seen him fight live like a ridiculous amount of times. So it's kind of interesting that I always got like nervous. But and I've been there for wins, losses, all of that. So it's quite interesting. But I'm always excited. I'm always rooting for him when I was there, and I loved it.
Ron, anything else you'd like to add?
I think, there's boxing. We're fans of boxing. We've seen it for many years. I mean, we could have been, like you said, we could have been here all night. Another one round I want to mention. It was George Foreman versus Holyfield. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yes.
That was a cracking round. Those two big, heavy hitters. But, credit to these guys. They step in the ring. They put their lives on the line. So, it's their livelihoods. As much as we love to see it, there could be some obviously bad consequences down the line. They've got families. There's life after the ring. And, I admire Floyd Mayweather. Look at him. He's kept his marbles intact. And, he's a smart man. He's making a lot of money and he's a very successful man.
Real quick. Oh, well, when you're done, my bad. I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah,
Go for it.
So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we got only like American fights. I feel like those are all American fights. I need a UK list, man. I need a UK list.
That's a fair point. Yeah, he's making.
Well,
man.
I mean, a UK list. I mean,
you know what? Dillian White versus Joseph Parker, round 12.
Oh, it's a great round. It's a great. I was there
round
live.
12. Yeah, round 12. That could have gone either way. I think Joseph Parker, who was behind on points. We've missed out on Anthony Joshua versus Klitschko.
Yes.
Round 5. Round 5 as well. They're the two that really jump at me. I mean, we did touch on Dillian White versus Chisora.
Some of the rounds
they had a lot of cracking rounds. I'll tell you one fight. Danny Williams. I don't know if you know this one, where he fought with one arm.
No. I don't know.
Yeah, he dislocated one of his arms. And he was fighting with one arm, and just watch. I mean, I guess it wasn't one round, but his one arm had gone. He was fighting with one arm, and he still defeated and knocked out his opponent. I can't remember who the opponent was. So again, there you go. There's a few British.
One British fight I have to mention. One of my favorite rounds, and is quite a recent fight. I believe it's 2018. Was round 12 between George Groves and Chris Eubank Jr. When George Groves propped his shoulder and Eubank Jr. threw everything, including the kitchen sink at him, and Groves, who was an all-out warrior, just round 1 of Froch versus Groves. The first one was another great round because Groves put Froch on his backside, and it's just something you never expected. Like I said, we could go on all night. Maybe we could move that to episode number 5 next week. But that's our best 5 of all time. Shane, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time, and of course for those of you that haven't, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Please make sure you're following us on all the social media platforms. The link for Shane Mosley Junior's Instagram page is also in the description of the video. And again, Ron, thank you very much for your time, and Shane, a pleasure as always. And thank you guys for watching episode 4 of Boxing Talk with the Sugar Man, Shane Mosley Jr.
Yeah, man.